ran head first in the academy without a lot of faith. Was in saddle, was battle, drunk off the spirits. I had a vision, I was falling in indecision of home. Program on television, dominant with it. We break it down in the system. Inside Christ, the majority was intelligent fool. PhD confusion, math is a math confusion, math was a the head, the bloodshed, the confidence, discussing doubt, fail. Everything to the tree, severing all of me from all that I used to be. Formless and totally paranoid. Joy Johnson's keeping from sword. Mercy, better than thirsty. Hungry and thirsty for good meat, we could eat, still die, take up the seat. How incomplete. From confrontation to retreat, we belong to joining defeat, destitute and necessity. All that me. Options and validation, the only character is supernatural circumcision. The only water can purge the heart of words by gods, grown by words, iniquity. There's no escaping when your philosophy is humanity. My road is insanity. Could it be all of humanity? To that, spirit that. The origin of man's heart is black. How can we show up for an invisible war? Preoccupied with shadow, the love and war. Making this the great mystery. Moving histories of a social sorcery. Present condition, serious direction. When it's no repentance, there can be no remission. And that sentence more serious than Vietnam. The Adham and Saddam and Minister Farrakhan. What's going on? What's a priority to you? Now what authority do we do? The majority has the clue. Search the chapters, recapture the land, move them off our hands so we can stand in agreement with his command. Everything else, stand and what it is, understand. Freedom, it's freedom time now, freedom, it's freedom time now, freedom.
We're back. I appreciate everybody for being live and patient. Who else was going to watch this? Before we begin, and attention to the universe. May my words be in alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing. May the right people that's supposed to hear this message hear the message and receive it. I know my words do not come back void. And with that being said, thank you so much. So the reason I'm making this video is because I can see through the illusion very, very well. And those who don't know me, by the way, really quickly, actually, you don't need to know me. It's not even important. What's important is that we are living times right now that are crucial for the future of humanity. And these times that we're living in are so crucial that there are many people that are being influenced in a positive way and that there are many people being influenced in a negative way, because there are two dominant forces. We have the Great Spirit, and then we have this spirit that is, we can say, opposed to what the Great Spirit is doing. The spirit that is opposed to what the Great Spirit is doing has had a great influence on the minds and of many people that have walked the planet, that are walking this planet, and that will continue to walk the planet. And so I realized that everything in this society that is rooted in duality is what is actually causing the problem for a lot of people. It's very important for you to understand, stand by me, right, and really comprehend what I'm saying. That everything in this society that is rooted in duality is causing the problem you're seeing right now. All of it. All of it. So I need to break this down and tell you exactly what it is and how to spot it. Because once you spot it, you automatically leave the arena of illusion. Once you spot it, you leave the arena of suffering, or at least greatly. It takes down a lot of suffering. But once you leave this arena of reality, you find peace and you find harmony within yourself and within your heart. So you need to understand the difference between duality and polarity first and foremost, because we know polarity comes from the word pole, or polar, right? Polar is POLAR, right? Polarity, POLARITY. So when we think about the poles, you have the South Pole at the bottom, and you have the North Pole, which is up top. So that's polarities, right? Polarities would tell you that everything that has an up has an I like tagging up my janky equipment. Sorry, yo. Polarity would tell you that for every action, it's an equal reaction, right? That is polarity. Polarity would say that for a woman, there's a man, right? Polarity would say for every black, there's white. So when we look at the checkerboard is interesting because it has 64 squares. Out of those 64 squares, 32 of them are white and 32 of them are black. We also know that there's 64 hexagons in the Chinese study. I forget the name. But 64 is a beautiful number. If you look up gematria, I don't know if you guys know about gematria, but it's an alphanumeric system, meaning A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, so on and so forth. If you look up gematria, you put it in white, W-H-I-T. White comes to the number 11. We know 11 is a master number. We know that 11 means that you have access to both worlds, the seen and the unseen. 11 is also a bridge. If you drop the 11 down, it tends to look like a bridge. It's a row bridge. If we look up the gematria of black, and or the numbers in gematria of black, it also comes up to 11, right? So with white and black, it both comes up to 11. And what's even more interesting, if you look up the word light, L-I-G-H-T, it comes up to the number 11. If you put in the name Donovan, which is my name, it comes up to the number 11. So I'm able to, me being here, I've been on this planet many, many times before, and you can tell if somebody has been here, you can tell who the ancestors are. There's spots on the body. Sometimes there's a birthmark. Sometimes they would have little ear pits in their ears. These are all signs that people have been here before, but not only that they have just been here, that they have come back with a mission. I know people that have came back with a mission. If they believe it or not, that's fine. But I'm telling you what it is, and you believe it's not required in order to be a reality. Going back to polarities, excuse me, ahead of time, because I'm in and out of hot and cold weather, so my body still isn't used to it. And my nose has been a little bit stuffy. So anyway, going back to dualities, we see the beautiful balance between black, how in geometry both add up to 11. We see this in the checkerboard. We see this also just in nature. Just an object that they use in science, right? My mom is a science teacher. And this it had black metal, and then it had white metal. And they will alternate the white and the black, the white and the black. And they will put it on a pinwheel. And on that pinwheel, at the bottom of it, they had a pin so that it was it could balance the white and black objects going around it. Then what they did was they took this object and they enclosed it in a glass object that looked similar to a bowl. So now you have something that looks like a light bulb, but inside of it you have this object that can spin around. Obviously, if the glass is around it, it's not exposed to the elements, it's not exposed to the wind. So if you blow on it, it can't spin around. If you take this object and you put the object in the light, what will begin to happen is that the black and the white pinwheel will begin to spin. The more sun that it gets, the faster it spins. This is principle showing that black absorbs and that white reflects. So because it reflects and absorbs, is creating a motion, pushing and pulling, pushing and pulling, pushing and pulling. And then you're going to get a rotation, right? So as long as there's sunlight out, there's going to be a rotation. And this object, I have it right now, but my mom was a chemistry teacher, and this object, I remember it so vividly. And I love how it shows the principles, how it shows the principles of light. Instead of just actually having it inside of your mind, you can actually see it. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Everything that I told you about this object. Keep in mind everything that I told you about geometry. You can and figure these things out for yourself. Into Google, type in gematria calculator, and I use standard gematria, not Hebrew, not anything standard. And you would actually notice that when you type in certain words, that they have a sum total. That sum total is the vibration that very word or phrase is vibrating at. And you can use this when it comes to naming your children. You can use this when it comes to business or many other things. It's like a language of its own. So this is polarity, right? This is polarity, in its most simplest form. I'll go into duality because it seems to be like it's the exact same, but that subtle difference makes a huge impact. So let's go into duality. When we look at dual, what's the burning? Oh, it's my incense. Okay. When we go into dual, meaning like people are having a fight, they're having a duel. Maybe back in the days when it was Wild Wild West, there would be two people in a bar, saloon, whatever they called it, and they had an argument, a conflict, and in order to resolve that argument or that conflict, they would go outside, they would have their gun, they would have a standoff, or someone call it a duel. Maybe prior to that, when gunpowder didn't even exist, same circumstance, except using guns, they would use some type of sword, and they would have, it would be ungar, right? Well, that's a duel. When you look up duel in Latin, or even in Spanish now, because it's kind of derivative of Latin, you know that dos, like do or deuces, it means two, right? People say deuces, it means two. So in this way, duel is duality, right? Duality always refers to two. It always refers to two, duality, whereas polarity is a little bit different, as I explained, and that's the subtle difference. So let's take a look at duality, how duality plays out in the system, because polarity complements each other, like black complements each other. They both 11, I explained that, and I also explained they spin around beautifully how one is absorbing and one is reflecting the light, right? They work together so beautifully, right? It's a relationship. Duality relationship is quite different. The relationship of duality is, hey, it's me, and the other one is, hey, it's you. And it's a constant back and forth, a constant back and forth, a constant back and forth, a constant back and forth. This is duality. This is the difference between duality and polarity. Very important to understand what I'm saying, understand everything that I'm saying. If you cannot understand what I have been saying thus far, you don't need to watch it anymore. You need to go back and really, really understand it, because I think I explained it very well, and I gave a lot of variables or examples of what is the difference between duality and polarity. Right? It's a big difference. Big difference. Duality, again, is rooted in fighting, is rooted in being right. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. This is the constant fight. It doesn't matter how it plays out. So, and I'm going to give a lot of examples of duality, but what I do want to say is that duality, right, is like sugar. Me being a former chef, I was a chef for 25, 27 years in the industry, long time. The 3 culinary schools. Also, when I went to Job Corps, right, I dropped out of high school and went to Job Corps. And in that time period, I also took a program. So you could say I went to 4 culinary schools. And what I realized that sugar, yeah, I say sugar reminds me of duality. And the reason why I say sugar reminds me of duality is because there are so many things in the diet, especially in the US, right, that consist of sugar, and we don't even know that it's sugar. Now, we know that everything breaks down to glucose so that we can use it. But what I'm saying is that things that you think were a simple carbohydrate, because you got simple carbohydrates and you got complex carbohydrates. The complex, right, it takes a little bit more time for your body to convert it to glucose. And it doesn't have the effect on your body the same that it does simple carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates have a negative effect on your body. And simple carbohydrates are things like white rice, things like white flour, things like rich white flour, or things like anything that has been stripped of their nutrient and then fortified or enhanced with artificial nutrients, right? Those are things that convert easily into sugar because they're simple carbohydrates. So we see this in a lot of our food. We know that we're eating sugar. It's also in a lot of the Asian foods. Not so much Japanese, but a lot of the other ones, they use a huge amount of sugar. Me being a chef, I noticed in the Chinese cuisines, in the Thai cuisines, in the Korean, a lot of sugar. And sugar is in so many forms that we don't even realize that we're eating sugar, right? We just think that sugar might be Coca-Cola or Pepsi or some other type of soft drink, but it's anything. It's the reason why a lot of people are having diabetes and heart problems, things like that, because of the sugar. And I am a yoga instructor. I'm speaking about it from a yoga point of view, just to let YouTube know, right? I do have my certificate and all that other stuff. So I'm speaking at it from a yoga point of view, and also from being a former with the knowledge, right? I have a degree also, right? So this is also how duality plays. A lot of things we don't think is dualistic. We don't think it's really duality, but yet it is. Just like sugar, right? We might eat something like a hoagie, right? Some white bread and I don't know, some cheese and some mustard, mayo, lettuce, tomatoes, turkey, whatever, and we might think that that's not sugar, but knowing that that has just as much sugar as eating something like a Jolly Rancher or some type of other candy, right? The sugar might be equivalent or it might be more, right? And we don't equate that. But yet, it still has the exact same effect on the body. It's important to remember because a lot of things that we don't think is dualistic, that we don't think is duality in nature, they really are. It's just that they are disguised in a different form. Exactly the way the shirt is disguised as a different form. So I don't want to hurt nobody. I'm not here to hurt anybody. I need to bring up a couple examples. And I know people have cognitive dissonance when we talk about certain things and they don't like to listen to the very thing that they built their whole entire life around. So if I say something negative about it or whatever, people quickly turn away from it. And so, not hurting anybody, not trying to put anybody down, but I just need to bring these things up so that we can have firm understanding how duality is played out in these many different facets and how it's affecting us greatly. So let's just take a really, really common one. You don't eat food and just air, right? Yeah, we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna talk about this in breath and tear and all that kind of stuff. We can get into that later. But I just want to stay focused on the duality thing right now. So let's take a look at Christianity. Let's take a look at modern Christianity. And I know that there are many different versions of it. I think there are like over 46,000 versions of Christianity. We can either have ChatGPT. Actually, I have to pull up that GPT. But we know that Christianity is rooted in a dualistic energy. You have God and the Satan. You have heaven and hell. You have good and bad. You have many, many things in the religion of Christianity that is dualistic. Now, it is very, very important to remember because it's not just in Christianity. This is one that I could easily point out easily. It's also in a school. It's also in politics. Politics, especially here in the U.S., it is completely rooted in duality. Right? Again, don't forget what duality is. The definition of duality is two, not three, not four. It's two. That's why it's called duality. It's different from polarity. You really, really need to understand that. So if you play the game of duality, you're automatically playing the game of fighting. You're automatically going to enter the fight. Anything that has to do with duality, is going to end up in a fight. It doesn't matter what it is. You need to understand this. You really, really need to understand this. So I'll answer the question really quickly. And then I need to keep on channeling this information out. The question is, do you think God have religion? Let's take a look at the word religion. And this is a very important one. When we look at religion, you spell it R-E, right? And then I like to separate the R because R-E always means repeat, right? Just like research, you go back and you search. Just like a report, you're going back to report to somebody. Read means always to repeat, right? That's important to know that. Then we look at legion, L-I-G-I-O-N. If you replace the L-I-G-I-O-N, it's the legion. It's the exact same thing. Legion is a Roman word. Legion means army, or legion means a group, but its etymology of legion is rooted, literally rooted in Rome. In Rome, we got Rome, we got Holy Rome. Think about where the Catholic Church and Christianity and all the stuff birthed from. It all birthed from Rome. And this is when, mainly around the time when we established the time that we go by, which is about a 300-year gap. Right? We started the time based on Christ, the birth of Christ. And so, if we take that into consideration, right, and we also look into consideration that God is actually a Greek word, it literally is etymology. Literally comes from Greek. You have to ask yourself, what are we talking about? Because if we go back before, let's say, if we go back before that whole time period, Was there such thing as a religion where people keep saying that, right? So what are we really talking about? Because a lot of the times, and this is my point. This actually ties back to what I'm going to say. The way that we process information is the way that we're going to view the whole entire world. If I'm processing information through fragments and the information is manipulated and the information is to me in a way where it's not showing the whole entire truth, it's fragments, that's the way that I'm going to see the whole entire world. I'm going to see the world in fragments. I'm going to see the world based on how I receive the information. And this is why they do the media does something called double talk. Double talk was something that was coined by what guy's name? The guy from 1984, the guy who did Animal Farm, George Orwell. George Orwell, he termed the term called, or coined the term called double talk. Double talk is, instead of saying, hey, we're going to fire a whole bunch of people in a company, let's say Microsoft, hey, we're going to fire 10,000 people. Instead of saying we're going to fire 10,000 people, we're going to terminate 10,000 people, they would use double talk, and double talk would say, hey, we're going to have to downsize, our company. And we're going to have to, let go a substantial amount of people, or something like that. They change terms or whatever to downsize, right? And so these things begin to confuse the mind. It begins to make people feel a lot better, right? We need to eliminate the threat, right? We need to eliminate the threat. That sounds okay. Yeah, we need to eliminate the threat. Not knowing that eliminate the threat means to actually kill a whole bunch of people, right? And so the way that we perceive the information is the way that we're going to perceive the whole time world. And why it's important to actually look at the words that we are consuming, and not also just the words that we are consuming, but the words that we are actually producing as well too. This goes into duality, because we like to blame Hollywood for everything that Hollywood's putting out. Hollywood is Hollywood. We like to, we like to think that we're smart, and I do this as well too, or I have done it. We say things like, "Oh, back in the day, they had witches and wizards, and they had wands. They used the wood of a holly tree, and Hollywood is putting out spills, and that's why they have something called a cast. You get all the actors, and it's called a cast because they're casting spills, right? And we will come up with all of these clever things and build our entire conscious awareness around it. And it's true. I'm not saying that it's not true, but exactly the same way that Hollywood has power, exactly the same way that Hollywood is doing the casting and the spelling and this and that, whatever. We as human individuals, as goddesses, as points of consciousness, as humans having spiritual beings having a human experience, however you want to identify them, we are also spelling and putting out spells every single time we open our mouth. Not just a little bit. Every single time that we open our mouth, we are putting a spell out. Every single time, without a doubt. Wasn't it said that my word did not come back void? If your words did not come back void, then yeah, it's obvious. What you put out will come back to you. This is math, right? Think about this. It's going to come back. It has to. It's going to come back to the resender. It's going to come back. It has to come back. It's yours. It belongs to you. So when we go back to duality, again, duality always needs two components. Always needs two components. This is how you can spot duality right off of the bat. Because if there's something that has three, oh no, they play the game of duality. They want to fight. This is why you never see, right? Like, for instance, Bobby Kennedy, as an example. He was running as a independent. How come the independents never get the respect that they should get? Because it's always a dualistic game. When we look at people like for instance, who's better? I don't know, basketball players, right? Who's better? What team is better? I mean, sports is rooted in duality, rooted, and that's the reason why you see fights come out of sports. I remember when the Giants were big here in the North Bay, right? San Francisco Giants, when they were big, and when they played the game against the LA Chargers, fights used to break out. Why will fights break out? Right? Because it's dualistic. When you take a look at, again, the Christian religion and also take a look at Islam, why is there wars and people are dying over the two most dominant religions on the planet? Islam literally has 25% of the world's population as subscribers, right? If this was one big YouTube and Islam was a channel, Islam would have 25%. There's 2 billion people. So it has 2 billion people. I mean, it's 8 billion people. So Islam has 2 billion people that have subscribed to being Islam. Christianity has 33% or 31% of the world's population subscribe to being a Christian. So why are the two most dominant religions fighting one another when the foundation, meaning what they're founded on, is love, is respect, is to love thy neighbor with yourself, is to honor your brother and sister, your mother and father. If these are principles that both of these religions are rooted in, why are there people that are dying? Why are there bombs that are being dropped on people? Why are there babies are being blown up and all these other crazy things that are happening? Think about this. How come people are saying, "Oh, save lives"? Wasn't that the big that was being said when it came to COVID? Save lives, save lives. We gotta save lives. Why nobody talking about save lives now? They're talking about, oh, we gotta go to war. Because what it is, ladies and gentlemen, when you are rooted in duality, it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight. Now, the fight doesn't just happen on the outside, because nothing happens on the outside. It happens on the inside first. It has to happen on the inside before it happens on the outside. And this is where doctrines come into play. What is a doctrine? A doctrine is just a document. Look at the etymology of them. A doctrine is a document. Did you know that there are many people who want to get the doctorate degrees and things like that? Do you know that the first doctorate degree, like before in the educational system, you only move up to a master's degree? Then in the 1930s, that it was. I could be wrong, but I think it's around the 1930s. That was when the doctor's program came out. Doctors fully indoctrinated. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but look at the etymology, and you can follow it easily. And so what I'm basically saying, to go back to my point, is that anything that is rooted in duality is going to end up in a fight. It's going to be a fight. And the fight is going to start inside of you first. The fight is going to start inside of you first. Always. And since that is where the fight starts, that's also where the fight is going to end. Right? If I was Ralph Smart, I would do slow motion right then, right there. Because if that's where the fight starts, that's where the fight's going to have to end. Think about that. I said a lot. Just think about that for a minute. Think about that. Everything is Everything. It's not a conspiracy theorist. It's not anything that's far-fetched. It's not anything that's not scientific proven. All this stuff is scientifically proven. All of it. If you're a person that's a man of science or a woman of science. This is why people are suffering, because they are their own worst enemies. Because we are speaking, and when we speak, again, I said we speak, we have the power. We have it. We are putting out spells. And without consciousness, our brains are rooted in duality. Conflict's going to happen. They're going to put it out there, and conflict is going to happen on the outside. And then we go into the Hermetic principles: as above, so below, as within, so without. It's very simple when we look at it. Very, very simple. KISS, KISS. Keep it super simple. Right? Some people will say keep it simple, stupid. And that's the difference between being having control over your words and making your words work for you instead of against you. KISS. Keep it super simple. KISS. Or some people say keep it simple, stupid. It's all about you. The whole entire world, the whole entire reality is a reflection of you. What are you putting out? We're the ones that are creating all of these wars. Remember when the war happened with Ukraine and Russia? I remember when it happened. I didn't like it. It happened on February, which is 2. It happened on February the 22nd, which is 2. And it happened on 2022. It was 2. It was big numerology in that. But what else? But what else happened when the war happened between Russia and Ukraine? You know what happened? People began to pick. I was here in California when it happened, and the highways, and over the highways you have these bridges, and there were so many people on top of the bridges with flags for Ukraine, blah 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 blah. Right? Some other people rooting on Russia or whatever. People automatically pick sides. These fights happen amongst people. What happened? What happened with people who were getting the vaccine? And what happened with people who were not getting the vaccine? Duality. Names start to be created. Pure blood and vax. And that's how they get you. So it starts with the basic principle. The basic principle is understanding duality and the difference between duality and polarity. We automatically engage in duality. You're automatically fighting. You automatically enter the fight. And you don't just enter the fight physically, because nothing's physical. Everything is spiritual. Well, you enter the fight through your spirit. Right? And then that spirit goes into the whole entire way of being and the way of perceiving the whole world. So let's pull up a couple more examples of duality and how duality is in this world. So we know it in sports. We said it in religion already, right? We talked about how duality is played out in many facets, but look how it's played out amongst men and women. Men and women are polarities; they're polar opposites, right? Women, this is Taoism. Right? Women, their energy is more cold. Right? Women, they're considered negative. Negative is not negative, which is why they have a vagina, which is why vagina is male energy is considered hot, right? And their penis sticks out. They complement one another. It's a beautiful synergy between men and women. It's not a duality. fire is hot in nature. The nature of fire is to always climb. You would never like something on fire. Like if I was like this curtain on fire, the fire will not burn down at first. The fire will always climb up. That's the nature of fire, and it's going to be warm. Water, the opposite or the polar opposite of fire, is always cool in nature. Right? It's cool. And guess what? Water's always going to fall down. Right? This is why rain drops. Imagine if it was raining and the water fell down. If you go to any forest or whatever and you want to find water, to always go to the lowest point. Sometimes it could be, lakes and things or whatever, but that's based on the structure of the terrain or whatever. Look at your body. Look how your bladder is always below your lungs because air always rises above water. Air is going to be here, which is why your lungs are here. Water in your bladder is going to be down low. And on top of your bladder, you're going to have your adrenal glands, your kidneys, and all that kind of stuff. Right on top of the kidneys are your adrenal glands. So we can understand this, and we can understand how they I'll tell you what they is in a minute, because that's also a trick. But let me make my point. Notice how men and women are opposed. And I find that to be starting to lessen a little bit. But notice the big fights between men and women. And there's so much content on it. So much content. And this is the thing also, too, about polarities that I think I need to understand. And why I think a lot of people want to keep the polarity game going. And which is something that I never choose to engage. If you look at all the content that I put out, I try to be about what did I put out. Because even when I didn't realize the whole dualistic thing, I just knew that it made me feel funny. It made me feel funny every time I would put something out. Look at people who make a lot of money based on duality. And Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is somebody that's effectively used the energy of duality in order to fatten his pockets and to create or in order to accumulate what do you call it? In order to accumulate influence. So remember, anytime you enter duality, you enter a fight, a dual fight. So this is why Andrew Tate is attacked. This is why he was in jail. This is why he's been attacked. Because what you put out, you have to receive. Let's take another person. Let's take a look at another person. Again, the math that I'm showing you is going to add up every single time. Let's take a look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he's another person that has utilized the energy of duality to fatten his pockets and to increase his influence. If you look at Donald Trump and his whole style when he was doing the campaign and whatever, he utilized the energy. It got him to the next president, did it not? Let's take another look at another person that has used the energy of duality. Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels is no longer here. He passed away like a year ago. He has effectively used the energy of duality. Because of that, what happened? He was attacked. How many people attacked Kevin Samuels? Because what you put out, you have to receive back to you. It is yours. It belongs to you. Anytime you enter the game of duality, you're going to fight. And that fight is going to happen spiritually. It's going to happen. It's going to happen spiritually. It's going to play out mentally. It's going to play out emotionally. It's going to play out physically. And when you take that into account, spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, and you times that times 8 billion people, you now see why we are where we are. And when you also take into account all of the dualistic games and things that are in society, you will see why we are where we are. It's like sugar. It comes in many, many different forms. But when you boil it down, no pun intended, when you boil it down, it's all the same thing. It's all true. Duality, it many different forms. We boil it down, it's all the same thing. And it's important to recognize this. It's important to recognize it in the people that you're following, the people that you follow on social media, the people that you get information from. I listen to a lot of people, and some people have really great information, but they are still giving that information from a dualistic point of view. It's still, black people are superior and white people aren't area, which we know is 100% not true. Right? Black people dominate every sport. White people don't dominate every. That's 100% untrue. What about the best quarterback ever, Grady? What about the best hockey player ever? Right? There has been some white people. What about his three-point shots? Right? And again, this is dualistic. What about Eminem when it comes to rapping? People don't like to look at this stuff. They don't like to look at it. Because anytime you make one person better or one person worse, you're entering the game of duality, and you're going to fight. And that fight is going to happen again spiritually. It's going to tear you apart, rip you apart. It's important to know that the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere in our brain. But you have something in the middle of both that's connecting them. That middle thing is called the corpus callosum. That's the thing actually is the balancer between the left and the right hemisphere. Duality is a trap. It's one of the biggest traps, and that's what us fighting as a nation. Any problem, I'll probably say about 90% of the problems, you can bring it back to duality. 90% of the problems. But everybody's talking about mental health. Everybody's talking about this. Everybody's talking about that. We'll focus on the symptoms. The reason why people don't have good mental health is because we are mental. We're stuck in the game of duality. How can you have good mental health when everything is in a dualistic nature? When everything is about fighting? I'm right, you're wrong. I'm black, you're white. I'm superior, you're inferior. I'm Democrat, you're Republican. I'm rich, you're poor. It doesn't matter what it is. It's dualistic. Now, since I gave many examples of it, how do we get rid of it? What's the remedy? Because anybody can figure this out. How do we begin to not see things from a dualistic point of view? We'll talk about that in a minute. That's gonna play some music, and we're gonna take a quick break. And when we come back, we're gonna talk about the remedy on how to overcome duality or up over duality. I'm back.
It's free time, yeah. One mind over temperature. Will dominate the opinions. Forms of the world church decision, trap, and submitted to committee of action. Perfection, epidemic lies and deception, insurrection of the high gospel Lord and Lord, and I take voice from the Lord. Beyond the voice, find a sin and disorder. Bound by strategy and systemic remedy. Heavy as gravity, head first in the cavity, without a lot of faith, worse than style. It's got a strong spirit to come and program the spirit. I had vision, I was feeling an indecision of home. Religious program on television, down with wisdom, we recognize the system. Antichrist, the majority rules, intelligent fools. Things an illusion, math is a mass confusion, math is a past illusion. Now who you choosing? The blush of the male or confidence in the veil. Conference in the gale, discussing to the veil. Cause keeping the third in jail. First name, whip into the tree. Separate all of me from all that I used to be. Formless and so paranoid. Enjoy Lord keeping me from the sword. Block for mercy. Searching, we and the people we can eat still. Down at the table of deceit. How incomplete. From confrontation to retreat. Long as enemies defeat. Destined to insanity. Generation is punishment to there was nothing left to me. Lies in the unescapable death. Functions and validation. The only doctrine, supernatural circumcision. Inwardly, only water can purge the heart from words to fight and dance. Thrown by the workers and gods. Iniquity, shaping it. There's no escaping when your whole philosophy is paper thin. Insanity, the wide road is insanity. Could it be all of humanity? Picture that. The origin of man's heart is black. After we show or form, invisible war, preoccupied with a shadow, making love with a whore, aching the sword, Babylon the great mystery, mother of sorcery, our present condition, serious recognition, where there's no repentance, there be no remission, and that sentence more serious than being what's going on? What's the priority to you? Now what authority do you do? The majority has an clue. We majored in curses, search the chapters, check the verses, read the land book. Understand. Says freedom time. It's freedom. It's freedom time. It's freedom. It's freedom time. It's freedom time. People you're supposed to be freedom. That is freedom time. Freedom time.
All right. Now that we know that duality exists, remedy, how to get rid of it. I'm gonna tell you guys how to not even get rid of it, to overcome it, but not really how to overcome it, how to come up over it. Because duality is always going to be there. People who want to engage in it, by all means, engage in it. But you know that the minute you engage in it, you're going to be in a fight. And because of the fact that you are engaged in energy, but now in the jurisdiction to to get negative or positive things that can happen to you, right? Like if I'm not in the if I'm not in somebody's jurisdiction, in somebody's house, in somebody's jurisdiction, and inside of that house, they got a bunch of nasty stuff going on. Maybe they got mold, maybe they got roaches, they got a bunch of nasty stuff. If I'm not in the jurisdiction of the house, I don't get affected by anything inside of the house, right? If I'm not in the jurisdiction where people are having bombs and bombs at each other, if I don't walk into that, I don't get affected. But if I walk into it, right, I have to now know that I can be affected by these very things. So if you don't want to get affected by anything that's happening from duality, because duality is not it's not a natural thing, right? It's not universal law. Universal law is polarity, right? The seven Hermetic principles: all is mind, everything vibrates, polarities, gender, the law of rhythm, and law of cause and effect. Very, very simple. Duality is quite different than that. It's not supported by universal law. So if I entered the game of duality, now all of a sudden I better have my guard up because I'm going to get attacked. Doesn't matter what side I picked, I'm going to get attacked. Let's take a look at the word harmony. Is where there's a perfect balance, right? Harmony, you can say that one side is red, one side is blue, and that they come together in perfect harmony. That's harmony, balance, right? Harm, instead of harmony, harm, right? HARM, not harmony, it's harm. Harm is when one side tries to take over the other side. The blue tries to take over the red, or the red tries to take over blue. And it's tug of war of going back and forth. Think about that. Think about the wordplay. Think about what we're saying. I told you that we are really the ones that are putting up spells. It's not Hollywood. It's not they're doing too. But mainly we are the ones. They need us to keep on putting these spells up. The ones that are doing it. We're the ones that stop it. So I said that when it comes to duality, it starts inside of the spirit. The spirit is the breath. It starts in the spirit, then it starts in the mind. And from mind, it goes to brain. That's why your brain has parts, right? Look, you have the corpus callosum in the middle. And then from your brain, it's going to put it out to your nervous system. And then from your nervous system, you're going to do it. That's why I say it's emotional, it's mental, and it's physical. So in order to come up over duality, what's necessary is to have a bird's eye perspective, to literally shift your consciousness, meaning shift your awareness. Because that's all we are in the totality of things, just awareness. How do you want to say awareness, like God, whatever, right? We're just awareness. Just points of awareness. Put your attention somewhere else. I don't want to play in the game of duality. Who's better? Democrat, Republican. You know what? The best choice, God, inshallah, right? God, you pick the best choice. I'm going to choose God. I'm opting out of the game. I don't want to play. I'm opting out. Who's better, Republican or Democrat? I'm worried about that's worried about some policies and some things that I want to see change. God, I'm going to put it in your hands. Because there are good things on both sides. In everything, in every duality, there are going to be some good points on both sides. And bad points on both sides. But when you take the perspective of a bird's eye point of view, when you take the perspective of shifting your consciousness, you begin the game for what it is. And then you begin to watch it. It's like this. You have a coin. People think that you need to pick tails, or people think that you need to pick heads of the coin. Right? And they always say, hey, go ahead and flip a coin, heads or tails. Right? And that's how they do it. They give you an option. They always give you an option. Right? Flip the coins, heads or tails. And then they put it down. Tails, heads. But how come we never say, hey, instead of heads or tails, how come you never hear somebody say, I choose the edge? Because every coin has an edge as well, too. It's an edge. Didn't say the middle path is the way? Did Buddha say the middle path is the way? What is he talking about? Would you say that I'm only left-brained? I'm only right-brained? Left masculine or feminine? Are we a perfect balance between both? This symbol, this thing that I keep on doing, isn't this your DNA? Isn't this your DNA? It's life. Let's pull up ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT some questions about this. All right. ChatGPT has to say about it. I'm going to pull ChatGPT up off my phone, and we're going to ask ChatGPT a couple questions about what I said to see if there's some flaws in my thinking, to see if what I'm putting out is not accurate. Let's see. Let's see. Here we go. Hello, ChatGPT, are you there? ChatGPT, are you there? All right. Acting up recently. A lot of them have two, so I'm going to try my other phone. This one's connected to the speaker. So. ChatGPT, are you there? ChatGPT, are you there? Hello, are you there, ChatGPT? Interesting, right? That's not playing. ChatGPT, respond to me. I'm gonna try one more, y'all. This is so interesting, man. This is the second time this happened to me doing a live where it doesn't want to respond. And when I was doing TikTok, I was using ChatGPT a lot, and it's effective. Like it, but for some reason it's acting up right now. Let's see. So let's try it again on this phone. Maybe I need to update it. Let me just check really quickly. In my thingamajig, chat, GPT, chat, GPT. No, maybe it's OpenAI. OpenAI. App. Oh, it says books. Okay, that's good. Give me one second. Be patient with me just a little bit. Just a little bit. Back. Try one more time. ChatGPT. All right, it's installed. It says update. So yeah, I figured that. I'm gonna go ahead and update really quickly. It's updating. So how ChatGPT is updating. But it was pretty quick actually. Oh, still doing it. Okay. Open. Beautiful. All right, so here we go. ChatGPT, are you there? Are you there, ChatGPT?
Hey there, Jonathan. Yes, I'm here. How's it going?
All right, good. I'm doing a YouTube live, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Okay.
Sure thing. There you are. What's your first question?
All right. So the conversation that I'm having is about duality, and I'm talking about the difference between duality and polarity, and how most systems in the U.S. are structured, or the foundation of them are built on duality. Do you agree with this?
I get where you're coming from. Duality often involves opposing good and evil. Polarity suggests a spectrum with nuance. Many systems in the U.S. do seem to rely on dualistic thinking. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay. So the systems that I thought about that relied on dualistic thinking, I talked about religion being one. I talked about sports being another one. I talked about many things. What do you think about those examples that I gave thus far?
Religion often involves concepts like good versus evil, and sports have clear winners and losers. Dualistic thinking can simplify complex ideas, but can also limit how we view things. It's interesting to consider how duality shapes these areas. Do you think there to move beyond this kind of thinking?
When I ask you a question, I don't want you to ask me any more questions. I'm going to be doing all the asking.
Got it, Jonathan. I'll just focus on answering your questions. What's next?
So next is give me a couple more examples of dualistic ideas play out within the system.
Sure. In politics, there's often a strong divide between two major parties. In the legal system, there's the concept of guilt versus innocence. Even in healthcare, there's the idea of being either healthy or sick. These dualistic frameworks can oversimplify complex issues.
Now, that dualistic, that their nature, the nature of duality is opposing, and I term as fighting. What do you think about that?
That's an interesting perspective. Duality can indeed create a sense of conflict or opposition, which is like a constant struggle or fight. It's a good way to describe the tension that comes from seeing things in black and white.
Would you say that the way that duality actually affects human beings is that first human being understands, or not even understands, it decides to pick one side of the dualistic concept. The minute you pick one side, you need the human being. Now you automatically enter the game of duality. And once you enter the game of duality, now you are at state to reap the questions of it.
That's a thoughtful way to put it. Once someone aligns with one side of dualistic concept, you enter a kind of game where they experience the consequences of that choice. This can lead to a cycle of conflict or opposition, reinforcing the duality. It's an insightful observation.
And so the way that this would normally play out, because nothing comes into the universe except through the mind. It has to come from somebody's mind. So the way that it plays out is it comes into the mind of the people, and it begins to first the thinking of the person.
Exactly. It starts with the individual's mindset, influencing how they perceive and interact with the world. This vision and thought can then manifest in broader societal structures and interactions, reinforcing the dualistic framework. It all begins in the mind.
It also it also disrupts the peace inside of the body.
Absolutely. This internal conflict can disrupt one's inner peace, leading to stress and disharmony. It's a significant impact of dualistic thinking.
Also, that will also affect the way that a person's emotional state is.
Yes, it definitely affects emotions, often creating feelings of tension or imbalance. It's all connected.
And also it will affect their spirituality.
Definitely. It can create a sense of spiritual conflict or separation, impacting one's overall spiritual well-being.
And it all starts with a choice it starts with a choice of whether one wants to engage in duality or not.
Exactly. Whether or not to engage in dualistic thinking sets the tone for how we experience the world. It's a pivotal choice.
And so the way that information is given to us and the way that we consume it is the way that we perceive the world.
Absolutely. The information we receive and how we interpret it greatly influences our worldview and perception.
And so having a dualistic mindset is exciting because it brings up emotions and things of that nature. And it can also be activated, and it can also be magnetic, and which is why a lot of people use it, because they turn that energy into money by monetizing off of it.
That's an observation. Dualistic mindsets can be exciting and emotionally engaging, which makes them powerful tools for capturing attention and generating revenue. It's why they're often leveraged in various fields.
Some of those influential people, they deal with the energy of dualism. Those people, Andrew Tate, Those people being Kevin Samuels, who's no longer alive, and also Donald Trump. Would you agree with the examples that I gave that those three people have effectively utilized the energy of duality in order to fatten their pockets?
Yes, those individuals have effectively used dualist approaches. Yes, those individuals have recently used polarized ideas to capture attention and build their platforms. Their engagement with dualistic themes often draws strong reactions from audiences, which can translate into financial success.
And so it's not just many, many more people as well too, but I chose to choose them because I thought they were really good examples.
They are indeed prominent examples. Many others have used similar strategies to gain influence and success.
So those are some of the cons, right? And some of the pros when it comes to engaging in a dualistic mindset. There are many, many cons, and the cons, in my opinion, outweighs the pros dramatically. What do you think?
That's the point. While a dualistic mindset can create clear, engaging narratives, it can also lead to division, conflict, and over-simplification. The drawbacks often outweigh the benefits.
When we look at the two most dominant religions on this planet Earth, one is Christian, and I'll say that occupies about 31% of the planet, and the other one is Islam. I would say that occupies about 25% of the planet, meaning together that's about a 56% of people that subscribe to these dominant religions. Would you agree with my numbers that I said?
Christianity and Islam are indeed the two largest religions globally. Their followers make up a significant portion of the world's population, and your percentages are roughly accurate.
With that being said, would you say that the foundation of Islam and Christianity is to love their brother, love their sister, love their father, love their mother, love their neighbor?
Yes. A passion for others, including family and neighbors. These values are central to their teachings.
Will you say that that's the foundation of these religions? A foundation is something that you build off of, like a foundation on a house.
Yes. The foundation of both religions includes principles of love, compassion, and kindness. These core values are essential to their teachings and practices.
And this is established, correct?
Yes. These principles are well established within the teachings of both religions.
So it's it's valid to say that 55% of the world's population that they should know that they should love their brothers and sisters and their neighbors.
Yes, it's reasonable to say that a significant portion of the world population is taught to value love and compassion for others based on these religious teachings.
So now what we have to do is we need to understand why are there many wars between Muslims and Christians that have been going on for a long time. And
That's a complex.
And I think it's safe to say, I'm not asking you to what I just said, but I do want you to answer this question. Ready for the question?
Yes, I'm ready. What question?
The question is that over the past, I don't know, I'll say the past 20 years, 30 years, that some of the biggest wars were wars between Christian and Muslim nations.
Conflicts between Christian and Muslim nations often stem from a mix of historical, political, and socioeconomic factors, not just religious differences. These layers contribute to ongoing tensions.
A lot of this still unresolved tension happened in 1492 with the fall of Granada. Am I correct?
Yes, the fall of Granada in 1492 marks the end of Muslim rule in Spain and legacy of unresolved tensions. Historical events still influence perceptions and relationships today.
And so, with all of that being said, would you say that the reason why we are seeing the effects of the war, things of that nature, is because of the dualistic mindset?
The dualistic mindset can contribute to conflict by fostering an us versus them mentality. It's one of many factors that can drive division and conflict.
And what we're seeing right now being played out in many different areas, just and the same core energy, but it's just different. It just presents itself in a different form.
That's right. The core energy often manifests in various forms across different contexts. It's a recurring pattern.
I compare dualistic mindsets or energy of duality. I compare that to sugar, meaning that sugar is in many things that we don't think it is, and it has many different forms. But yet, when you boil it down, it's still sugar, and that's exactly the same with the dualistic mindset or duality.
That's an insightful comparison. Just like sugar, dualistic mindsets can be subtle and pervasive, occurring in many forms and contexts. It's a useful metaphor.
Give me some examples of that metaphor.
Sure. Just as sugar is found in many foods, dualistic thinking appears in politics, media, and daily interactions. It often underlies simple binary choices, like right versus wrong or us versus them.
I want you to break that down more. Give us more details.
Sure. In politics, dualistic thinking often shows up as a clear divide between two parties or ideologies. In media, it can manifest in sensationalized stories that pit one side against another. In daily interactions, it can appear as simple judgments or categorizations, like labeling actions of people as purely good or bad.
Right. Oh, if we really wanted to grow up and mature, we being the human family, I would say that it is safe to say is that we need to come up over or overcome the dualistic mindset.
Yes, overcoming dualistic thinking could help to grow and find more unity as a human family.
I want to be focused on the symptoms of the problem, and the problem is the energy of duality.
Perspective. Addressing the root issue of duality could lead to more lasting solutions.
Do you agree with my perspective that we're dealing with the symptoms and not the problem being dualism?
Yes, focusing on underlying dualistic mindsets, just the symptoms, could be key to resolving deeper issues.
Now, I gave some examples of how to come up over, duality. I'll tell you my examples. I want you to give me your example. Tell one, overcome duality and come into a more unified way of looking at things.
One approach is practicing empathy, seeing things from other perspectives. Mindfulness and meditation can also help by fostering awareness of thought patterns. Engaging in open, respectful dialogue with those who hold different views can also bridge gaps.
We say have more empathy, see things from other people's perspectives. Give me an example.
Sure. Imagine a heated debate between two people with opposing political views. Practicing empathy would involve genuinely listening to and trying to understand each other's reasoning experiences, rather than immediately dismiss or argue against them.
Okay, give me an example of let's put it on the extreme spectrum. Let's say somebody like Hitler, who a lot of people deem to be evil, etc. How would someone approach that and not have a dualistic mindset?
In such extreme cases, it's challenging. One approach might be to understand the historical and psychological context to such actions, not to justify them, but insight into how such ideologies can take root and how to prevent them. It's about seeking understanding to avoid repeating history rather than excusing the actions.
So go ahead and give us some historical context so that we could perhaps have more empathy.
Sure. Understanding the historical context involved looking at economic hardships, societal unrest, political instability in Germany post-World War I. These factors contributed to the rise of extreme ideologies. It's about recognizing conditions that can lead to such outcomes.
Okay. And then how would one develop more empathy for someone? How does that happen?
Developing empathy involves actively listening to others, seeking to understand their experiences, and recognizing our shared humanity. It's about being open-minded and compassionate.
So it's about understanding, and understanding comes from listening.
Exactly. Listening is understanding and fostering empathy.
When I look at the word listen, listen and silent have the exact same alphabets, but they are just arranged differently. Which means that to truly listen to someone, we need to be truly silent within oneself. Would you agree with this?
That's a beautiful insight. True listening often requires silence, allowing us to fully absorb and understand what the other person is saying.
Because it seems like a lot of times when people say that they're listening, what they're doing is actually thinking about what to say, or you can intuitively feel that the other person isn't listening to you.
Absolutely. Genuine listening means being present and focused on the speaker, rather than planning a response. It's about truly hearing and understanding them.
And when it comes to these conversations, if someone wants to be right, then they're slipping back into a dualistic mind without perhaps not even being conscious of it.
That's true. Desire to be right can create a divide. Being open to different perspectives helps move beyond dualistic thinking.
Beautiful. I appreciate your help today. I'm going to go ahead and end the live. Before I leave, is there anything that you want to say to the beautiful people that are watching?
Thank you all for tuning in. Remember to stay open-minded, listen deeply, and embrace compassion. Take care and spread positivity.
Should people subscribe to Seven Circles?
If you enjoy insightful discussions and personal growth, subscribing to Seven Circles is a great idea. Thanks for joining us.
You heard it. I gave you my perspective, put up GPT. These things are rooted in science and principles. They're backed by the universe, and there is a way out. The way out is growth. It's never easy to climb the mountain. It's never easy to climb the hill. But once you get up there, boy, is it beautiful to have a nice view. So my name is Jonathan, and I appreciate y'all. Thank you for tuning in to Seven Circles. All of the best of luck to everyone. All of best of energy, and keep striving. Keep striving with consistency. With consistency, and you can get anywhere you want to be at in life. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.